Charles Darwin revolutionized the understanding of our world and made us all wonder about our past. The fact that we shared a common ancestor with the apes was to many people in our world very hard to accept. But it wasn't just a change of how we looked at ourselves, it was also a struggle with himself and his own principles.
Darwin was raised in a house where some had strong Christian beliefs and others were disbelievers and freethinkers. The family was wealthy and the parents well connected. Darwin was the fifth of 6 children. First, Darwin planned to be a doctor like his father and grandfather, but he quit after 2 years of studying in Edinburgh. He wanted to have a career in the church instead.
At the age of 18, Darwin went south to the University of Cambridge to study divinity. While he was studying to become a priest, his interest in biology grew more and more. When he finally graduated in 1831, he had plans to take a job as a clergyman, but he got recommended to join the ship HMS Beagle and he couldn't reject.
For the next 5 years, Darwin traveled around the world and discovered a lot of new things that completely changed the way he looked at the world, humanity and animals. On the voyage of the Beagle, he remained orthodox and looked for centers of creation to explain the distribution he discovered, but towards the end of the voyage, he began to doubt that species were fixed.
On the ship HMS Beagle and in his official position as the captain's gentleman companion, he read and expounded the Bible on a regular basis. The captain of the ship was deeply religious and personally conducted divine service every Sunday, and it was obligatory for all the crew members on board to attend.
The next 20 years after he went home, Darwin wrote and evolved his theories. When he was about to end his scientific investigations, he should now face a choice. He could interpret what he had seen as evidence for the Genesis account of supernatural creation, or as evidence for naturalism.
He chose that everything in nature is not a result of a divinely guided, meaningful intention. So when Darwin saw all the distribution and the animals adapting their living condition, he looked into the Bible to find an answer. He hoped to find an answer, but he couldn't.
From the church, he drew a lot of attention. In the time of Darwin, the general belief was defined by the church that animals, plants and humans was created by God. Life hadn't changed in the past, and in the future it wouldn't change either. But Darwin had discovered that life over millions of years actually had changed, and that the animals had adapted to the different living conditions.
He also discovered that humans were a result of a long evolution. Actually, he found out that us humans shared a common ancestor with the apes. It came as a shock for many, and especially members of the church were furious. How could a man come up with such a ridiculous theory? It was very offensive to the Christian people, and then the theory even came from a man who was educated as a priest. They couldn't believe it, and neither could he.
Many people later on has wondered if Christianity would be in better shape without Darwin's existence. Maybe it would, but of course it would be less influencing because of our growing knowledge. Darwin's book was published in 1859, but it was already clear to all that Christianity was in a time with a lot of struggle. We already had knowledge that asked questions to the way the Bible described the image of the world. Geologists had discovered that the Earth's age was unimaginable, millions of years, and it was challenging for the Bible's narratives and view on history.
His theory said that humans weren't unique. Disease, decay, and death need no longer to be exhibitions of gratuitous cruelty on the part of the Creator.
His arguments against God and Christianity. He was unwilling to accept the Bible and the meaning of it.
Darwin rejected Genesis as the true story.
He also rejected the miraculous in Christianity.
Darwin thought that natural selection rendered design redundant.
Darwin thought that natural selection, rather than believing God, could account for both the happiness and the misery in the world.
Darwin thought that believing God was the result of constant inculcation of children. He He thought of religion that it was a tribal survival strategy, but still thought that God was the ultimate lawgiver. Darwin saw himself as an agnostic. Since Darwin's passing, rumors have circulated around, did Darwin renounce the theory of evolution on his deathbed and return into Christianity like in his young days?
In his biography, which he wrote pretty late in his life, Darwin supported evolution 100%. To him, it was distasteful and had brought him a lot of dismay, but still, he was convinced by the theory.
That Darwin renounced evolution on his deathbed has all family members rejected. In Darwin's older days, he did get a more positive look on Christianity. He allowed a local church to hold their meeting in his own property. Some Christians might hope that he did become a Christian shortly before he died, maybe because of his past with reading divinity and graduating as a priest.
If he did return to Christianity, no one will ever know for sure, but one thing's for certain. The theory and the impact of Charles Darwin was and still is very important for humanity and Earth.